well, without further ado, it gives me great joy to introduce my friend and colleague, Ron Baker. Ron is a self-mastery coach and author and healing practitioner. He's guided thousands of clients from around the world through a unique process of personal transformation through his School of Self-Mastery in New York City. He's just completed a memoir called So Much More Is Possible, A Soul Journey from Wounded to Wiser. Love that title. And that'll be released later this year. And Ron has performed in over 60 leading roles in Broadway shows and opera around the world. I was blessed to get to hear Ron sing Music of the Night from
of the Opera.
Phantom. Yeah, it was such a gift to be able to hear you sing, Ron.
Thank you so much.
I'm just like, I have to ask you, like, the depths of feeling that you're able to convey is so expansive. I'm just curious about, we'll dive into our topic, but I'm curious, like, how you've been able to, time and time again, night after night, find that within you.
Well, I think it ties into exactly what we're talking about today, because no matter what career we're in, no matter what relationships we're wanting to build and deepen, everything is about the relationship we have with self as a starting place. So I was fortunate early on in my first career to have the opportunity to travel all over the world expressing myself. However, I have to say, what you were able to experience just this last year when I sang is, I guess I'll call it the newest, most improved version of me, because when I was having my career, I was learning about expressing emotion. However, the main reason I included the fact that I performed all over the world in this introduction today is that even with all that glamorous opportunity of performing with celebrities and having just tons of opportunity, I was so not fulfilled as a person. I was so disconnected from myself, and I didn't even know that was the problem. I had all of the outer trappings that would say, I should be tremendously happy. And it's not that I didn't enjoy any of those experiences, because I certainly did, but I was only half fulfilled. The outer part was working really well, and I didn't even know there was a goal for going in on the inside that was equally as important. That's why this topic of creating the relationship within is so passionate for me, because I discovered when I went and sought teachers all over the world and began putting pieces together, once I learned how to connect to self, learned how to nurture and actually value self, it changed everything I was doing in the outer world, and not just the glamorous stuff. It changed all my relationships, and most importantly, how I felt about myself day to day to day. So getting in touch with our feelings and expressing those and able to use those, whatever career we're in. I know you have a lot of coaches on the program that are listening today. The opportunity to share in an emotional, connected way makes all the difference in the world between even the most profound information and making it human and connecting heart to heart. So those are a few thoughts about that very thing.
Well, I so appreciate your connecting it to what we're talking about today and to our audience, because I think there's well, and you're a coach yourself, so I know you can connect with this. I think that sometimes there's a belief that one can walk away from coaching school with, that, oh, it's not about me, it's not about my feelings, it's not about what I think, it's not about me, it's all about them, right? And what I've learned more and more and more is that no, actually, no, if we can't feel ourselves, we can't help our clients feel themselves.
We're ultimately modeling for someone a version of what the healthy goal would be. So if I come in as a self-effacing person who says, I don't matter, only you matter, it teaches the person that that's the goal in loving and connecting.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem. So
Mm-hmm.
I've actually shocked a few of my clients, because I'll say, if I think they're really challenged with this particular thing, I go, who do you think is the top priority in this room right now? And they'll go, well, I guess it's me because I'm paying for this session. And I'll go, oh no, I am the top priority in this room to me. Please be the top
For
priority in the
you.
room
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
And the fact that we've never been taught that, it's selfish to focus on self. That's crazy.
Yeah.
If we learn how to connect to self and how to nurture and fill our well, we have so much more to then bring to everyone else, and the riches of self get to be shared and included to others. And so I'll say, do I seem selfish to you? No one has ever answered yes, thank God. And I say, how many people do you think have actually benefited from me filling source level as a top priority? So there you have it. I
You know,
completely agree.
I heard someone put it this way yesterday, and I think this may help for some people, is like, it's not me first, it's me too.
Yes.
And I think that's what some people need to hear, is it's not me first, which sounds selfish. It's
Yeah.
me too.
I like to say it that if I'm going to connect to you, I am the start of that sentence. If I'm not connected to me, who's here to actually connect to you?
Yeah,
And
that's right.
so it's everything has got to start with self, because I'm not even going to allow a depth of intimacy with you that transcends the intimacy I have with me. Because if I haven't claimed parts of me, I'm not going to know how to hold a safe space. I'm not even going to know how to receive the connection with you if I haven't taught myself how to do that. So self has got to be an equal with every other person on the planet. And most people don't grow up hearing, of course, you're a sacred individual. Of course, you matter just as much as everybody else. Of course, your needs matter. And if we receive all that and it's modeled so that we trust those 9 nurturing needs that we'll eventually get to today, then we allow this movement when we're small, and then we get encouraged to then share ourselves, and we learn how to create an actual connection rather than, oh, I don't want to be selfish, I'll make it all about you. And then there's no powerful connection happening.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking a lot about connection with self, reclaiming or claiming self, relationship with self. Can you talk more about, like, for people who think, oh, relationships are something I have with someone else? Uh, uh, can you describe what that means to connect and relate to oneself?
I'll give a couple of different ways people can use a very distinct measuring stick. So as the first focus for that, most people are not nearly as connected to themselves as they think. Why? Because when we didn't get that encouragement to receive 9 nurturing needs, we end up protecting and defending and separating, and we think that what we do in the world is what's most important, and the inner self and who I actually am is not really that important. So I would have argued, oh, of course I'm connected to myself, before I educated myself in all these ways. So the
Mm-hmm.
first way that I ask any of you to evaluate is, how connected to your physical self are you, much less to your emotional or deeper other facets of self. How connected to your physical body are you? So I'm going to say a word, I don't want you to change a single thing, but just evaluate in this moment when I say the word breath. Don't change a thing, but tune in. What are you actually doing with your breath in this moment? Almost
Well,
everyone, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off.
no, no, go ahead.
Having done this for 29 years, ultimately, with people around the world, most people discover they're breathing in a very shallow way down to about right here. And I call that survival breathing. Why? Because in the body, particularly the lower body, is where we hold most of our trauma, our fear, shame, and judgment. And we don't want to stir it up. So we become more and more disconnected from physical self, focusing outside the self. And we aren't even nearly as connected to the physical body as we would like to believe we are.
Mhm.
So if it's okay with you, Allison, I'd like to use this segue as a way to give an alternative so
Yeah,
people can feel the difference.
let's do it.
What I would love for all of you listening to do in this moment is to take what you consider a deep, proactive in-breath through the nose and a deep, proactive out-breath through the mouth. I'm going to be quiet for a couple of seconds here. Take a couple of those. Now, what most people end up discovering is, yes, I can take a deeper in-breath, but most people end up expanding their chest when they do it. Versus put one hand on your belly, lower belly, and one hand on your chest, and then take a breath. I'm going to see if I can tilt my computer and look down here.
Mhm.
If I can fill up so that you look 6 months pregnant at the top of that breath, that is connecting into the belly. Tons of people can't even figure out initially the coordination to actually fill the lower body this way. Then the out breath. Almost everyone that I get to do this initially aren't used to breathing out the mouth, but they will do something like, and then I go, see if you can put one finger between your teeth, and they'll go, oh my gosh, it is so gripped. So the breath will look
Mhm.
something like this. Versus, now, am I suggesting we're supposed to walk down the street breathing like that? No. This is building a scope of receiving energy and asserting energy. Most people did not grow up being encouraged. I'm going to use you as an example in this moment, Allison. Growing up saying, Allison, tell me how you feel. Tell me what's going on. Tell me your perception. Tell me what your, it's like, it almost never happens in a way where we even know what we're feeling, much less assert, I'm feeling really vulnerable right now. Oh, I can hold a space for that. You're safe. If only we had exchanged like that growing up, which are some of the 9 nurturing needs, we would be asserting with a very relaxed, open mouth. No big deal. So my suggestion is you take your 2 smallest fingers, one on top of each other, place them between your teeth, and then pull the fingers out. That's what it looks like. For most people, that really stretches armoring that's built up, energetic armoring.
Mhm.
So it feels like we're really stretched to a crazy amount, and it really isn't. Now, if you do that 3 times, several times a day, you will begin to introduce a new level of energetic flow and connection to your physical body. To begin with, it might make you dizzy, lightheaded, etc. Why? We've gotten used to this much survival energy moving. And so in order to begin to truly nurture and value and connect to self, starting that relationship just with the physical body, much less the things that will come after that, this breath is a stunning initial measuring stick. So that was a big chunk. So I'm not going to jump into the other one I was going to give at the moment. We'll give it later in the hour if it's possible. But that's the first of the evaluations about whether you're actually connected to yourself as much as you might think.
So if someone in our audience were to be courageous enough to try this with a client,
Mm-hmm.
what would be the rationale? Like what, clients can be skeptical
Yep.
about, okay, is it, like, and why am I doing this again? And what am I connecting to? Like how, and definitely I felt that, and I'm hard pressed to really describe what it was that was important about that.
Mm-hmm. So what happens in our early life is that whatever we experienced, we made all kinds of decisions about this is who I have to be, this is what life is, this is how I have to operate, this is what's required, this is what creates conflict, I have to avoid certain things. And we end up creating a mental, emotional, physical comfort zone. I call this the wounded child survival paradigm. So at the center of our beings, in the deepest part of self, is where we hold that survival comfort zone. So when a coach will go to introduce something like a breath, they'll go, why should I do that? What difference is it going to make? What we're actually doing in the skepticism is habitually protecting our comfort zone. So it's understandable. It deserves a great deal of compassion. But beyond the child consciousness is empowered adult consciousness. So I start out going, okay, I can give you a list of things. It will create a much greater flow of energy. You will have more vitality. You will have a more consistent health presence. As an example, for me, I have gone for 20 years without getting sick. That comes from a flow in the body that creates health in the body. Now, in all fairness, I did have to have, in that 20 years, I did have to have my appendix removed. So I want to be full disclosure, but other than that, full health, not even getting colds in the winter, etc. So there are many benefits, but the first layer is helping you with an adult reality check. When your child goes, oh, that's crazy, that's ridiculous, I'm going to look stupid, whatever comes up for you, I say, so start with safety. Am I safe, or was there any threat to me doing this bigger breath? What's the adult reality? No one has ever said they feel threatened in any way. So you know what your current limitations are. If you keep doing the same choices, you're going to have the same results. I, and eventually all the coaches who would practice this and integrate this, have been doing this for X amount of time. And I can tell you from experience, plus getting to watch my clients, every single person has benefited calmer, more present, more connected physically, more vital, healthy, et cetera, So those are some layers around just the breath.
Yeah, so much comes up for me. I'll just share two tidbits, then I'll go to some questions we had.
Yeah.
One is I have just very recently tipped my toe into breath work, and I had a CEO retreat. It's that I ran of a group I run regularly, and I had an experienced breath worker come and do breath work with us.
Mm-hmm.
And the experiences people got from simply breathing in a particular way for 30 minutes, it was like 10 years of therapy. Just the fact that the breath alone can do that was remarkable. And the other thing that comes up for me is I've been doing a lot more reading on energy and energy medicine, and how some view from energy workers is that, like, what causes dis-ease is the ways in which our energy is blocked in our body.
Yes.
And what I felt just in that example you gave is like, wow, I mean, I feel like I'm unblocking blocked energy. Does that resonate?
It is completely accurate. Health, which I described, comes from a flow of energy. And if you block energy, which still has to move through your body, it's going to create a buildup and friction and eventual pain or fatigue or mental confusion. Those are the three primary symptoms of the first layer before it builds up to something more serious. Just imagine that you never open that jaw.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people have jaw issues.
Tons and tons.
Lots of
Have
tension
issues,
there.
either TMJ or grinding my teeth or whatever. Yeah. And that comes from the habitual child not feeling safe to express particularly feelings. So we start with energy, then we eventually add feelings into that, rather than all of this grip. And anything in the body that is out of balance starts out energetically. And so my clients are typically very surprised how many ways they grip their shoulders, their neck, their jaw, down into the solar plexus. I even talk about the sphincter muscle at the base of the spine. So many grips. So if you can teach someone the adult reality that you're safe to open gradually and to allow more flow of energy, and then you begin to get in touch with your habitual inner self, and you teach and introduce these 9 nurturing needs. Those experiences are what we seek more than any other thing. And when you show yourself how safe they are, then you can bring that into every relationship, whether it's professional or personal, in your life. And it is profound, the difference that it makes.
Well, so that I'm just loving this conversation. I have a few questions, then I'll go to Dana and see what's in the chat box. Then I'm super excited to go into the 9 nurturing needs. Yep. So Dana, what's in the chat box?
Yeah, a lot of great comments. Melanie mentioned she had heard a cup analogy, that if you keep giving away what's in your cup, it will eventually empty, and you have to fill your cup so that it overflows to others. I thought that was a great comment.
Love it.
And Amy asked, do you start your coaching sessions with breathing?
I do start my coaching sessions with what I call a check-in. And I say, because we're so immersed in situations and other people, and it is vital that we create a regimen for checking into self. And so I get people to close their eyes and begin to focus on just self, and to take breaths and to find out where they're blocked today. It is amazing how the breath will tell you what's going on with you emotionally. When you're having a fight with a colleague or with your partner, it is amazing how fearful the breath becomes, how tight it becomes. So if people can become aware of where they are in the moment, and they breathe and relax when they're not in crisis, then it's much easier when a challenge and a grip or contraction happens to come back in as the nurturing adult self and calm that, so that you can show up to all of the issues that need to be nurtured in your life. So the breath is just one piece of 4. No time to do all of that in 1 hour, but the breath is the first piece, and then you build other tools on top of that that allow for this self-awareness, self-nurturing, self-value to be built.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So a couple of questions that were registered in advance, and then I'd love to go to the 9 nurturing needs. Both Jane Reichman and Janet Husted, sorry if I am pronouncing that wrong, Janet, asked different versions of the same question, which were around, like, if I've endured trauma, or if I have these patterns that are holding me back, like, how does one kind of begin to integrate that to return to loving yourself?
So just those beautiful questions are so many layers of getting more and more informed in order to resolve them at deeper and deeper levels. But the bottom line is this: every single person grows through challenge. When you go to first grade, you face the challenge of learning to read, learning to do math, learning to be with other kids, learning to be away from home. By facing challenges, you literally claim more and more of your capacity. So, first of all, challenges are not bad, they're not wrong, they're not unlovable. But I guarantee you, if someone in your early life didn't know how to hold a space that said, again, I'm just going to use you as an example, Allison.
Yeah.
Allison, of course you're going to have challenges. You're safe to work through them. You're safe to have a learning curve. You're safe to share and allow that journey so that you claim more and more. We didn't get this. I've never met a client who had such clear guidance and nurturing to face challenges. So first of all, when you discover your challenge, hallelujah, that you're paying attention and you discover it. Whether it's a physical challenge like grinding your jaw, whether it's an emotional challenge, I don't feel safe with the risk of making mistakes or feeling deprived or feeling left out. I don't feel safe with those feelings. When you become aware of what the challenge is, you then need specific tools to nurture yourself. You show up as the adult who is gathering tools, and you nurture whatever from your original survival experiences that taught you fear, shame, and judgment. You learn how to reparent your nervous system. It is profound. I have not encountered a single issue that can't have forward momentum in a consistent way. Most of the time, people just don't have the education or the tools to know how to nurture. All of that is entirely possible. So the first step, can I accept that I have this challenge? Can I acknowledge that I have this challenge? And then can I ask for clear guidance, nurturing support and encouragement from whoever is involved in your support system? And if you don't have friends at that level, there are plenty of us who do this for a living, who literally teach these very things. Reaching out to people who have pieces of the puzzle for nurturing self is vital, whether you do it through an online course or whether you know someone in person. So acceptance, acknowledgement, breathing into it, and beginning to nurture and find out, what am I actually afraid of here? What am I afraid to face? What am I afraid to experience? These are plenty of layers to start. And then you need the tools to give some compassion to where that came from and what the alternatives are that you want to create. All entirely possible.
Well, I'm going to pull up. So what I believe, oops, I've got it here. What I think I'm hearing you say is, if we didn't win the parent lottery, and who did, then we essentially have to learn to reparent ourselves.
So first of all, it's important that we not, and I know you weren't doing that, but my clients are often concerned when we go to have this discussion that I'm going to make mommy and daddy wrong or bad. I am not. We have lived on a planet that has lacked the education to provide the depth of nurturing we have all needed. So my mom and dad may have had the best intentions possible, but if they only had a third grade education about certain facets of self, how can they provide me with the true depth that I need? And so getting educated about self and what our potential actually is, starting with these 9 nurturing needs and how they work, is crucial, in my opinion, for every part of our lives, as well as for every issue that we're seeing so exacerbated on the planet. This foundation. So would you like me to jump into a little bit of this with the 9?
I would love for you to.
Yeah. So the great news is that every single person, no matter what culture, race, religion, gender, doesn't matter, every single person goes through the same 7 stages of development that are intended to blossom us into a whole individual who trusts our value, who trusts what we have to bring in a unique individual way into the world. And I've not met one person in my 29 years of teaching through the School of Self-Mastery, not one person has understood those levels or the 9 nurturing needs, which start out from in the first 8 years of our lives, being introduced or not. And then, believe it or not, these are the same 9 nurturing experiences we want to perpetuate throughout our entire lives. That's how important they are. So as an example, when you are first born, the first energy center at the base of the spine and your limbic brain at the base of the brain, it's called the feeling survival brain. These are the only parts of the nervous system that are turned on. And in the first 18 months, you are intended to receive in a consistent way 3 experiences. Safety. At the moment, we're talking physical safety, a calm, consistent, nurturing environment. Connection. And that doesn't just mean being in the same room with someone. That implies knowing how to energetically open and connect to one another. So we needed mommy and daddy to be able to connect to us energetically. And we needed physical affection. There are all kinds of studies of babies in nurseries who are touched and nurtured versus babies that are not touched. And it's clear the ones who are physically nurtured with affection thrive compared to the other. Well, if you grew up in a household where people just weren't very comfortable with touching, and trust me, it is infinitely more common than we would like to believe. Knowing how to open the heart and connect energetically. Believe it or not, we live on a planet that hasn't really talked about energy and how to open. Just the next time you go to hug someone, pay attention. Do they completely stop breathing when you hug them? I almost guarantee you that is what happens. So pay attention. We go to hug and we're like, and then we separate because we don't feel comfortable to actually connect heart to heart with one another. The proof is in the pudding. So pay attention to these practical ways, because you don't remember in a logical way what was happening in the first 18 months of your life, but the proof of what was laid as a foundation and what became your familiar comfort zone is still in your nervous system. Yeah. So we throughout life need to feel safe, connection, and affection. So those are the first of the 9 nurturing needs. Now I could go through all the stages and whatever. It would take way too long than what we have. So I'm going to briefly read what you can see on the slide in front of you. In addition to safety, connection, affection, we also need acknowledgement, acceptance, compassion. What did I suggest in the earlier example? When you discover a challenge, accept that you have the challenge, acknowledge that you have the challenge, show up with compassion that this is merely one of your challenges that you're intended to learn and grow through. Breathe into it, begin to nurture it. We needed all of that, starting with our feelings. Allison, you're an example again. Allison, I see that you're feeling this, or this. Let's just say it was sadness. When you are 1 to 5 years old, this is all new to you. In addition to hearing, this is a nose, and this is an elbow, and that's a window, this is a feeling. Oh, I'm feeling sad. I am. And if we got acknowledgement, acceptance, and compassion of those feelings consistently, we would learn to land in those feelings, to ground in our bodies, and to feel safe. Of course, my feeling is lovable. When we don't, and they don't know how, they don't even know this is something that they need to be doing, this limbic brain personalizes all of it. Oh, my feeling is not lovable. My feeling is not safe. And we begin to squash and bury any experiences. And so we don't even know what we're not acknowledging anymore if we bury it and put it in the dark. Those are just a few thoughts. If we got all the physical nurturing needs and the emotional nurturing needs, we would then move into stage 3, full tilt 5, 6, 7, 8, and we would need clear guidance, support, and encouragement. Allison, share with me what you're experiencing, what you perceive. Let me teach you about your needs. Of course, your needs are just as well. I've never taught anybody that got any of these conversations in a clear, consistent, nurtured way.
Mm-hmm.
So if these are missing, we end up with fear, shame, and judgment. We defend ourselves, and then we create a mask of who we think we have to be in the world, and I have to be seen this way. And we become addicted to demanding those limitations. And that's why when someone says, breathe in this way, we go, that sounds ridiculous. I don't think I'll be doing that.
Yeah, we fight for our defended selves.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And yet, when we add the nurturing needs, no one in the adult reality discovers any threat whatsoever.
Yeah.
We discover it is so much a relief. It's like light at the end of the tunnel. It's what we've been seeking our whole dang lives, and we don't even know that's what we're seeking because there's so little education about it.
Right, right. It's so true. It's what we all need, and that we don't. There's like we don't learn it. So a couple of the questions we got in advance, one was from Judy Bolner and the other was from Anna Durashaw. Thank you very much, Judy and Anna. Was about how to help. It gets back what you were just talking about, is how to help our clients see how they are their own biggest limitations, like how they are getting in their own way.
Yep. As long as we say that with great compassion, one of the 9 nurturing needs, then it puts you in a position of power, not in a position of being wrong and bad. If you're your greatest limitation, you're also your greatest potential, because you can shift your choices from survival child choices to empowered nurturing adult choices. And you can transform and make yourself so much more available for connection, for sharing yourself, for getting in touch with what matters to you most, what you're interested in, what your priorities are, and how to invest in those with less fear, shame, and judgment. We must realize we are way more in charge of the potential than we realize, because we got frozen as a child and we weren't empowered. Mommy and daddy held all the power. So we have been left in the myth that I have to please somebody or I have to prove myself and I'm dependent on what somebody else does. And no, we're not. As adults, all that potential, when there's clear education and tools, all of that potential is actually right here at our fingertips. It's great news.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it occurs to me that the 9 nurturing needs can almost be like a diagnostic of for a coach to share with a client the ways in which maybe they're getting in their own way. What are the ways in which they're not acknowledging themselves? What are the ways in which they're not accepting their situation in themselves and others? What are the ways in which they're not compassionate? That's just, I don't know, how does that resonate with you?
It is for sure a measuring stick. And when you said accepting where you are, please hear me. Accepting where you are does not equal I don't proactively respond and transform and help the situation. But I have to first accept that I have this issue. Then I have to seek the tools, the guidance, and the education so that you can proactively then respond and improve every single situation, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, relationship, health, it doesn't matter. All of them can be helped. So acceptance is only a starting place. So yes, these can be measuring sticks. How safe do I feel? How connected am I to my own body? What a huge measuring stick. The breath alone that we did earlier gives you a measuring stick. And so once you begin to connect to self, that's when the real opportunity for transformation and taking it to more and more layers can take place.
You know, it occurs to me just how much people connect giving up with accepting.
Oh yeah, it is not remotely the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is not, I accept that I'm powerless and I have no choices. No, I accept that this is where I am and this is what I face. And then to get the clear guidance, support, and encouragement at the top of that list of needs is super important.
Okay, so I'll check in with Dana here, and then I'd love to, after we do that, just go into some case studies. How have you used this? How could our client, how could our audience use this? Dana.
Hi. No questions right now, just lots of great comments about how helpful this is, Ron.
Nice.
Bonnie did ask about your books, but I know we're going to get to that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, no other questions.
Thank you. All right, so as much as, you know, if you can maybe give a capsule
Yep.
of maybe a specific client you work with without giving anything confidential,
Yeah.
but how did they present? Why did they come to you, and what did you do, and how did it turn out?
People often ask me what kinds of clients come to me. The first thing I'll say is how unusual it is that 50% of my clients are men. It is so atypical for men to do consciousness work, particularly emotional work, etc. But how cool that 50% men out of these 30 years are also discovering we all have the same needs. We all need to connect to ourselves in nurturing. We have actually a lot of conditioning on the planet that says women are supposed to be the providers and the nurturers, and men are supposed to be the providers of the money and the whatever, the protection. Nobody's focusing on self in that equation. We're supposed to provide these two things, but we are all the same in needing to receive and nurture self, value self. So I consider men and women way more alike than I do different. However, people ask what kinds of people come. And I say people who want to enhance the quality of their lives. Some come with physical initial challenges. Some come with I really hate my job. Some come with, I would really like to lose 20 pounds and I have no idea why I cannot lose it no matter what. The great news, every single issue starts with the foundation of self and nurturing self. So let me give a couple of examples. I have a client that pops to mind who literally had migraines, who ground her teeth every night. She would grind her teeth, at least 2 migraines every week. And within a few months of working with me, disappeared completely. Disappeared completely.
Wow.
So that is a physical thing. A lot of people with sleep issues. I just cannot fall to sleep, and then I wake up so many times every night. Bottom line, we don't know how to let go of the mental spinning wheels. Why? Because we don't know how to nurture the feeling underneath all of that mental activity. And so we feel like we have to control something, and we're afraid if we go to sleep, we let go of control. Bottom line, when you learn how to nurture yourself and calm those feelings and show those feelings, there is no threat. And of course, your feelings are safe and lovable. When you show all of that and it calms down, the mental body naturally calms down because it's not in fight, flight, control, fear. So breathing before you go to bed, reassuring the fact that you are totally safe in this moment, and that if you are rested, you're going to wake up tomorrow much more effective than you were if you spent all night worrying. Setting these emotions with an energetic thing and a clear intention, just as a practical way to begin. Tons of people are helped. People with depression, people with anxiety. It is shocking how many people go through their lives carrying this around, and then they have shame about it and they don't share it. So far, I should knock on wood, so far, every single person who has come with issues of depression and anxiety have been able to resolve that chronic nature completely. Then they have moments of grip and they know how to nurture and calm it. It is not nearly so complicated as we make it. And yet, it requires a process. This is the most important thing to understand. We're not going to heal the core challenges that we carry unless we have a process that introduces a transformation by percentages, and we get better and better and better as we begin to integrate healthier choices and approaches and deeper truths and understanding. So there are plenty of people who have healed from serious illness. People who have 4th stage cancer who have turned it completely around and show up with no cancer on the scans of their life. All things are possible. And so there are people in job situations. Someone who said, oh, I'd really like to do more, I'm unfulfilled, but she was scared to death to assert herself. As she learned to do that, she has now held 4 positions as vice president of major banks in New York City, having huge success, trusted confidence. So again, there are countless numbers of issues that people show up with. They all start connection, nurturing of self.
So it's taking. Might be slow to catch on, but it sounds like the essence of what you're doing with your clients is teaching them how to nurture themselves in these 9 fundamental ways. Is that right?
Yes, because if we don't have the capacity to receive, we can't connect to self. Then we go into whatever arena of our lives, defended and separate. So receiving is the first thing. So I model how to receive from me. Then I teach them how to connect to themselves and provide for themselves the same nurturing experiences that I'm modeling. And so that's the first thing. Then to begin to share and assert self. It is amazing how few people feel safe to go and have lunch with their best friends and actually talk about self. This is what I'm going through. This is what I'm challenged by. This is what I've been feeling. This is where I've had breakthroughs. People are just as scared to name their breakthroughs and celebrations as they are their wounded, scary stuff to the child. And so learning and practicing, asserting and sharing self, these are foundational levels of beginning to give and receive, to create flow and health. So it, without oversimplifying it, does come back to these basics, no matter what the details are.
Yeah, that was super helpful. So I'm wondering if you'd mind walking through a specific example with me. What I think I heard you say is you work with like you modeling to me and then me experimenting with myself and then taking it into my life. Can we walk through one?
So yes, I'll give you an example of helping you go to an adult reality perspective.
Okay.
So Allison, it is amazing how few people go through life connected and processing as an adult. We think we're adults because we're in adult bodies, but we have ultimately been still so programmed by the wounded initial experiences. So what I want you to do is just imagine that there are 10 3-year-olds right there in the room with you.
It's getting loud.
Any 10-year-old, any 3-year-olds that you've never met.
Okay.
Any gender, any culture, it doesn't matter.
Correct. Yeah.
And
Okay.
now I'd like you to answer an adult question. Can you, the adult woman who's sitting there with me, name one of those children who just inherently does not deserve to be loved, nurtured, and guided in their lifetime?
No.
Isn't it just amazingly
Yeah.
clear?
Oh,
That
so
is
clear.
adult reality. So let's keep going. So now, there are 11 3-year-olds in that circle. You've never met the newest one either, but you've
Okay.
seen pictures of her. She's
Mhm.
you as a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Can you look as the woman you are right now and just go, oh, now it's clear. She is clearly the one that does not deserve to be loved, nurtured, and guided in her lifetime.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazingly clear? It's like unquestionable. Now, one of those children, it does not matter which one of them falls down, scrapes their elbow. There's this a little bit of red stuff that shows up. They don't even know what it is, but they know that it hurts and they're scared and confused and wounded and there are no adults around. And then they see you. Can you imagine the woman you are right now that you would go, get the hell away from me, I don't want to deal with that crap? Can you please describe out loud briefly what you would do physically and emotionally for that child?
Well, I would hope I would walk over and say, oh, you're hurt. It must hurt really bad. I'm so sorry. And maybe hold her. I'm not saying it's a her. It could be
Totally
a
fine.
boy. You could be a boy.
Yep.
And ask if I could help, or to just essentially physically connect, emotionally connect.
And then respond by washing
Yeah,
and
what
putting
can I
a
do?
Band-Aid, whatever it is that
Yeah,
you need, because you have the capacity as an adult to nurture physically and emotionally.
yeah.
However, what most people don't understand is that even though that fast there's a nurturing adult capacity, we have a wounded child who's been living in the nervous system, scared, confused, wounded, unsure from initial experiences, our own inner 3-year-old. But because we have felt we are the wounded child, just in a bigger body, we haven't understood how to go in and nurture the wound, the fear, the confusion, and ultimately we grip right here in the solar plexus and we squash it, saying, get the hell away from me. I don't want to deal with that crap. We breathe really high, we focus outside self and do our best to distract and avoid the main little 3-year-old, archetypally 3-year-old,
Yeah.
that needs us because we're the only one with the direct access to that child that energetically still exists in the nervous system. So that right there is a stunning exercise to begin to get in touch with whether I'm actually showing up for my child or continuing to give messages to my child that say, you're right, you don't really matter all that much. What really matters is me pleasing and proving somebody outside and trying to get validation from them and hoping their love will somehow solve everything.
I know.
And from my own performing all over the world and getting tons of attention and validation and signing autographs, etc., it is not true. That won't do it alone. But when we learn to nurture and connect and respond in all these 9 ways, all the things we're doing in the outer world become so much more fulfilling. Our relationships with each other become more fulfilling. All of it comes together deeper and deeper and better and better. My clients get used to me saying, you'll eventually be able to say, I reliably create a life that gets better and better and better, ...
Dot, dot, dot. I love that. Well, we're going to need to leave it at the ... dots. Thank you. So I could keep talking about this all day.